Okay, good. So right now I will be discussing to you about uh, Dr. Jose Rizal's second time, no, the second trip abroad. Okay, so first, his first destination is going to Hong Kong because normally from Manila, of course, before you can reach other countries, moagi pa man gyud ta og mga kuano, mga countries in Asia. So first in Hong Kong, he arrived in Hong Kong, Macau at February 3, 1888. So Rizal left the Philippines half sick and disillusioned. So of course, no, during those time there's already a threat, and then of course, no, it was very jeoparding to the side of Dr. Jose Rizal to actually nabutang niya no sa alanganin ang iyang friend and at the same time ang iyang family also tungod sa iyang ginahimo no sa No Limit Tanghire. Okay? So, with raiding the vessel Zafiro, no? Yeah, the vessel arrived in Amoy, Xiamen, China, but Rizal did not land because of his frail health. So, murag siguro during those time he was sickly, so that the city's rainy weather and the report that the city was dirty. So, while in Hong Kong, he met Jose Maria Basa and Balbino Maurico and Mauricio Iriarte, who were former exiles from the Philippines because of the events in 1972. So siguro no, it was not clearly stated in the history, but it is very remarkable that during that time, siguro these are also the people who spearheaded kana bang nanguna sad sa mga panguan no um, to abolish the system of the Spanish. So February 18, Rizal and Basa went to Macau, rode on a vessel called Kiukiang. So mo ni mga first person, what is the significant about these names? Are mo ni siya no, usap po ni sila siguro sa mga reformista nga mga tao. So becomes the friend of Dr. Jose Rizal. So Rizal also visited neighboring Macau where he stayed from February 18 to 20. So and there, Rizal studied the Chinese life. Rizal observed the following. Of course, kani si Rizal class, for your information class, kuha po ni siya, no, kana bang, study sa siya different culture. So, like, because of his travel, maragdagan siya na-discover sa iyahang pag-travel about different cultures of the people. Kay, gikan bi siya sa different part of the world, no? Different countries. So here we have he discovered about the Chinese New Year, the Chinese theaters, which actually nakahatag sa niyang idea how the Chinese culture represents their ways no on how to conduct nga mga theatrical nga mga mga kalingawan. So the Marathon Laureate Party and the richest order in Hong Kong. So the Dominicans, the cemeteries in Hong Kong. So Rizal left Hong Kong on board the Oceanic 2. Ano, dako-dako sa ning barkuha. So his next destination is to Japan. The Japan, the land of the cherry blossom. So the land of cherry blossom. Rizal arrived at Yokohama on February 28, 1888. I think this is part of daungan siguro, no? Kaning Yokohama. He stayed at the Grand Hotel. Yeah, the next day he went to Tokyo and stayed there from March 2 to 7. So later he moved over to the Spanish legation on invitation of its secretary. So Juan Perez Caballero. He accepted the invitation since staying with the Spaniards would save him money and he believed that he had nothing to hide from them. So of course, just to prove to the Spaniards that he is innocent no upon all of those allegations diha sa iyaha. Um, padayon si Rizal no nakisalamuha siya with the highest official of the Spanish. So Rizal was impressed of Japan's culture, no, the beauty of the country, the plants, flowers, gardens, mountains, and rivers. And as a matter of fact, if I were not mistaken, no, nakahimo po ni si Rizal no og actually kanang poem about Japan, especially reflecting on the nature nga uh, nature related na mga kuan na kining literary works. So, of course, he knows about kimono, the hospitality of Japanese. Of course, they are also well known, no? Uh, Japanese culture is well known with hospitality, so gift giving. So that is part of their tradition also. Politeness through bowing, and a few beggars on the streets, few thieves. Meaning to say, when there is a few beggars on the streets and a few thieves, maybe they are not that ano, the system of the government that they have is dili kayo nga nakabati because gamay raman ang poverty incident, gamay ra ang mga pobre, okay? The houses are clean and the Japanese are happy and industrious people. So kugihan sa day ang mga Japanese. So Rizal took time to learn the language and customs of Japan. So he was embarrassed kay, you know what, he looked like Japanese siguro, no? But unfortunately Rizal could not speak so well in Japanese. So there, during that time that Rizal is actually staying there in Japan, he met Seko Osai or Osi-san. So she was the daughter of a former samurai who became a proprietor of a bazaar in Tokyo. So kani si Osi-san kas nahimo po ning hinigugma ni Dr. Jose Rizal when he was there in Japan. So she was a culture woman who worked at the Spanish consulate. Mingon tag culture woman. So of course, well-mannered person. Rizal's love for Osi-san made him almost change his mind. For 45 days, he stayed in Japan. So nahigugma si Rizal no ni Osisan. So almost changed his mind. So siguro diri siguro nga time almost siguro naka-decide si Dr. Jose Rizal to ano kana bang to settle na lang and to live with Osisan. Pero nibalik no og santop siyang hunhuna nga actually with all of those things that he did, it has actually a purpose nga nganong muundang ko no na ko'y nasugdan so I have to continue. And with that, of course, unfortunately wala jud nagbunga nga kanang nagkaiusa silang Dr. Jose Rizal. So Rizal left Yokohama on April 13, 1888 on board the steamer Belgic bound for USA. So diha na si Rizal sa USA, United States of America. So United States, so Rizal boarded the English vessel Belgic on April 1888. So Rizal reached San Francisco on April 28. So one of the biggest cities, San Francisco, so dubbed America as a motherland for the poor who wish to work. No, and yeah, he described America as a great country, but it has many defects too. So they do not have real civil liberty. Mingin kitag civil liberty class, of course, ang kalayaan no in terms in the aspect of mingin tag civil, of course, the people who are actually living in the particular place or dili lang in the particular place but in particular country. So na yung mga civil rights issues. So when he was asked by Jose Alejandro about his impression of the country, he stated, America is the land par excellence of freedom, but only for the whites. Yes, ano? He is very straight to himself, saying that one to a person who asked him about America. Well, to tell you honestly, no, dili min anak kasayo, no, because an America is a very influential country niya. Mga maldito po ng tao nga mga Amerikano, kwas na po yung mga Amerikano, no, nga, kuan, di sila, na sila ganahan ma-discriminate, but an Asian person, Dr. Jose Rizal, directly state it, no, nga, ang Amerika ko, no, nindot ko, no, it is bound with freedom. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he merited that one into excellent only for white people. Meaning to say, for those who are not white people, uh, they cannot be able to enjoy freedom, okay, or experience freedom. So they experience discrimination in America upon arrival. So together with the Chinese people, so they are not allowed to disembark. So but pasabot was sila pa kanauga, no, kay tungod during those time Chinese passengers were even quarantined much longer on board. Kaya kana nga time kas uso po na sa una ang sakit nga cholera. So that is the reason why wala sila pa kanauga. Rizal arrived in New York on May 13, 1888. So just like the dream of anyone else, no? Sa tuwa, no? And somebody else nga ganahan makaadtog New York. So where the famous statue of the liberty situated. So New York, the big town. Results impression about America. So in a positive way, America is a land of great opportunity, especially for immigrants, no? Kanang mga manlilikas, kanang mga kung anong ganahan mo kuha nito. It has a huge farms and factories. It has a natural beauty. It has a high standard of living. So of course, guys, sa unang panahon dato sa nadaan ng Amerika. That is the reason why if we are going to trace back history, na gina competition no ang Amerika and European countries. Na sila even in the aspect of finding the spices. Pero it was not so remarkable enough in the history nga ang Amerika nagsigig ko ano nagsigig latagaw-latagaw nagsige og layag unlike the European country wherein it is actually sponsored by the king. So negative, Rizal complained about the racial prejudice of the Americans, which was inconsistent with its principle of liberty, freedom, and democracy. So of course, he find it very inconsistent. Why? Well, ito no, as stated earlier, the freedom is actually enjoyed only for those white people. Ang katong mga colored, dili di color ha, but a colored man, of course, brown, mga tan, mga black, they cannot marry a white woman. So di sila maka cannot marry also white man, no? Di sila makapangasawa. So they were hatred against the Chinese. Na sila kalagot no sa mga Chinese people. So if we are going to uh, examine that one in the present generation, no, makaingon ta nga na daan din hidwa ano sa America and the Chinese. Yeah. America is the land par excellence of freedom, but only for whites. Okay. So he left New York on May 16, 1888, and arrived in Liverpool on May 24, 1888, and stayed there for a day before moving to London, where he stayed as a guest in a house of Antonio Maria Regidor. So na siya sa London, no? There you can see he lived in London, no? May 1888, March 1889 to March 1889. So he chose it for three reasons. Nganong dito siya nipuyo sa London to improve his knowledge on English. So of course, part of that to study Dr. Antonio de Morga's book Successos de las Islas Filipinas, which is found in the British Museum. So siguro this is something very significant for him because Successos de las Islas Filipinas was named by the Spanish, if I were not mistaken, a Portugal, no, who arrived here in the Philippines during the time that they conducted a navigation. So London was saved from the Spaniards. So of course, it's not majority, no, even the Spanish wala kayo dili kayo daghan dito. So he worked in the British Museum Library, studied, copied, and published Morga's book. So yung gitun-an, he becomes a publisher and copy also book. He stayed as a guest of Dr. Maria Regidor. So it was mentioned a while ago. And then he stayed as a guest of Dr. Antonia Maria. By May, he moved to a boarding house owned by the Beckett family. So because he was an excellent linguist, he became good friends with Dr. Reinhold Rost, a Sanskrit scholar, the greatest scholar of that century. So he even spent time with him. Uh, According to my professor before in college, if this is just a rumor because I could not even say nga sakto po siya. It was not stated in the book, but part of that is he mentioned me that one of the Bickett sisters, kanam na itulom ni kabuok ning Bickett sisters, usa na iyang giuyab. I don't know, basin according to my professor, one of his reason giuyab tong Rizal is para pod maka siguro no naa po siya feeling ato but ili nga naka-strong para pod maka-save pod siya sa iyahang abangan. Okay? So because he was an excellent linguist, he became good friends with Dr. Reinhold Duras, no, a Sanskrit scholar, the greatest scholar of that century. So he even spent time with him. Grabe gini si Rizal, no? Oh, nana po siya kaila si Reinhold Rost, a Sanskrit scholar. Okay? And then Rost was very impressed with his manners and called him una perla de hombre or pearl of a man. Why is it that Mr. Ross na very kung atong kuan na idiomatic kayo ang pagpangan niya, no? Pearl of a man. Sabot pa sabot, mingon di tag pearl class, no? What is how are you going to describe pearl? Of course, dalisay, no? Kay kaning pearl, it takes million of years to be formed. Unya kaning pearl pod class very precious. Unya atong tanawon ang pearl is white, no? Sumingon tag dalisay siguro siya. So murag Ricardo Dalisay sir. Somewhat like that na because of his manners. He is a well-cultured person. Okay? News from Calamba. So during the time that he was staying with Reinhold Frost, naka-receive na siya no of news from Calamba. So of course it was a bad news because it was during that time that it was reported the persecution of Filipino patriots who signed after Friar Petition of 1888. Subot pasabot, actually these people are actually uh, participating no to abolish the say tawag ano to abolish all of those laws uh, nga nag-in favor lang sa mga friar about sa land katong encomienda system, if you can still remember the discussion before. So unfortunately they are being persecuted, so gipasilutan sila no, persecution of Kalamba tenants. So nahitabo gid no after they are actually kanang ni raise sila og kining kuan class ni raise sila og kanang petition no. Onya mao na gina no, gisilutan instead of kana bang aiming nga makakuha sila og kining kanang dako nga pabor no nga it was during the time of Terrero no, Emilio Terrero, Governor General Emilio Terrero katong time nga napa si Rizal nidto nya. It was not being reported in the account nga kung kinsa na Governor General, but unfortunately uh, the jury actually in favors to the friar. So senators attacking Rizal. Uh, and then Manuel Hidalgo's attorney's husband was exiled to Bohol. So si Manuel Hidalgo bana sa igsuon ni kuan Dr. Rizal was exiled to Bohol. Laureano Viado, his friend, was arrested for possessing copies of Nole. So very kuan kay siya kwas no, very bugat kayo siya nga panghitabo because ato gyud ang hunahunahon kwas no, despite all of those challenges ba nga uh, all of the people are actually being warned not to read, not to buy any copies of No Limit Tanghiri, but there is a person who actually kana bang naninguha nga makapagawa siya sa mga kopya sa No Limit Tanghiri just to let the people know, just to let the people read about the novel. So Reverend Vicente Garcia's favorable defense of the Nole. So they si kani si Garcia no ingon favorable defense of the Nole. So could be one of the confident to uh kana bang niya ni appeal that it was not kana bang demoralizing the kuano the systems of the government, the Spanish government in the Philippines.